Welcome to the 10-Minute Life Lesson Podcast. My name is Jay Cleveland Payne. I train people for improved personal and professional development, offering my assistance to those ready to develop their goals into tangible, focused, and achievable plans of action. And this podcast is one of the tools I use to accomplish my mission. Generally, when the timer hits 9 minutes and 59 seconds on this recording, you'll have a fully developed life lesson that you can take with you and begin to implement immediately. And if this week's lesson has a ring of familiar, then it's probably a reinforcement of a life change you've already started to implement. This podcast falls under the umbrella of my greater personal development efforts, all under the Your Better You brand. For more information on accountability coaching or to gain access to tools, tricks, and life hacks, visit yourbetteryou.info. Thank you for joining me on this journey today. Now, here is this week's life lesson. One of the perks of fame, infamy, or just being a well-known personality is that you are a well-known person. So you will react and interact with many people who, in normal cases, a normal mortal would not have a chance to deal with. They, being normal people, aren't getting fan mails from thousands and maybe millions of people who will never get a chance to get up close and personal, but want to share their stories with you of them, how you inspire them to do something great, how you save them from some sort of jam just by being you, oddly enough, how somehow you were meant to be with them forever and ever because maybe they're not exactly the most stable people reaching out to you. But that is one of the perks of fame. People will gravitate to you and will look towards you when you are famous. They believe they know you because they know the character you played or the song that you sang or the speech that you gave that roused up so many people. So they feel a deep connection to you because of the way you portrayed yourself in that performance. But don't sell yourself short on accolades from random strangers if you think you're just a normal, regular, everyday person. Chances are you and what you do touch the lives of many people every single day, and the work that you do may be multiplied by some work other people do, and it goes a long way to show how things work well. That's how this world works. One person actually does the thing, and like the butterfly effects, it goes along to choose to work towards a greater good, or in some cases, a greater bad. But this is not about so much the work that you're doing. This is about the people who may tend to latch on to you. If you are a person who is doing good things or attempting to do good things, you may be frustrated with your ability to connect to people who can get you places, people of higher stature and power. And maybe you're frustrated because you don't want to be a bother and act like you're pushing too much, but you really, really, really want to join that level, get in that pantheon of people doing those things because you believe you should be doing those things. Instead, your hangers-on are really, really hangers-on. They're people who really don't add much to the effort. In fact, they usually take away from the effort. They're more annoyances than actual assets, and those are the people that you have around you. They're people who don't seem to want to go, but are so enamored with what you have or what they think you can have that they're going to do what they can to stick around, whether they're actually sticking around to help or not. While your first initial thought is to run and hide under a rock and hope they go away, I'm telling you, you need to embrace the people who are on the lower end who are showing up to support you because they're showing up to support you. It's very hard as you're making your way up into any endeavor to find people who are going to give you the time of day just to have a conversation, let alone to actually support what you're doing. And sometimes the people that do support what you're doing don't quite get the message, can't quite understand the language of the memo, and don't know what to really do unless you tell them directly what to do. And even then, they don't quite fall in line. But the flip side is you have people showing up, being there, wanting to be around you, wanting to be near you, and assuming they're not trying to suck the energy out of you dry, that's a good thing because they're there hoping to bring you up, even if the efforts aren't quite working to that extent very well. Now, you cannot just be down on the people that show up because they're not in the vein you want them to be, because the crowd that you actually are gathering around you, it's not the crowds that you would rather have surrounding you as you make your way forward into whatever endeavor it is. It doesn't really matter what it is you're trying to do. That's great. It just matters that what you're trying to do is great enough to attract a crowd, and now you can see the crowd you're attracting. If the crowd you're attracting really is a problem, you have all the clues in the world to figure out why these are the people that are here. And you should figure out a way to attract the people you want, and maybe not so much detract the people you don't want, but make it so that you have enough people in your crowd that you are supported. And the people that are showing up, they know that they get their love, but they might not be the ones to really take you along the lines to the next step. Now, remember, if you go to a concert, there are thousands of people in the seats. There's only about 5-6% paying for the VIP tickets. The people sitting in the nosebleeds bought a ticket and they get a show as well. And that money goes into the pockets of the cast and the crew just as well as the big dollar ticket on the floor. So sometimes the people that aren't the greatest of your fans are needed because it's pocket change, but it's pocket change that goes to a good cause. They don't have to offer up all of their wares to make sure that you get the best and brightest, but a little bit goes a long way. And if you are providing for them, then hey, they're willing to pay that little bit to get what they have and hopefully aspire to pay a little more for the greater experience next time. Your struggle comes when you come to the realization that the crowd that you are gathering is coming to you because you're speaking their language. And the language you're speaking is not a very good language that you want to really share. Once you come to a realization that your message isn't quite the message you thought it was, and the way it actually is heard when it's out loud isn't all that great of a message, you have a chance to change there as well. Obviously, you can change the message. You change the message, and the followers you have will probably not change with you, at least not many of them. And if you're having trouble type people who are following you behind, they will follow someone else who is speaking their language of trouble much better than you are once you change. Now, on the good side, you may have people that just fall in love with you, and the message is sort of secondary. So if you change the message as slightly or as major as you want to change it, you'll find you'll take some of those older crowds along with you for your new venture. And guess what? That means you start off a new venture with a new message with a ready-made crowd. And that's an advantage because people want to follow people who are already having followers follow them. No one wants to really be the indie guy who finds the one thing that people don't know about because they want to be all alone. They want to be that indie guy to find that person to discover the great thing so they can share it with other people. And those other people can grow to follow and love the thing that they like. They don't do it on their own so they can be exactly on their own. They do it because they want something unique, something not of the crowds that people are already stuck following. So when too many people are making a crowd behind too many different or similar ideas, things get a little antsy and people look for independent voices, independent minds to follow. And in those cases, they're looking for people with much smaller crowds. That small crowd, oddly enough, is just as much of a beacon as the big crowd would have been for the person with the very popular message. So make sure you pay attention to the people in your tribe, the people who want to follow you, your message, your work, your art, whatever it is you do. Because you need people to follow, because you need people to help you keep things going. Keep the lights on, if nothing, to help you pay for your bills by buying a couple of your wares. But listening to your message, keeping up with your voice, watching your art, doing your things, following you to whatever it is you want to do. Whether you're trying to be a politician and change the world or be an artist and just trying to change the way people look at things. You need people that want to follow you, and often as you get started, those followers don't seem to be the most desirable or lucrative as someone who's already established. They have those followers because they are already established and have earned those followers, beside the fact that they had to start in the same place you were with the ragtag bunch of misfits that were the ones that pushed you behind. And when you get big and when you grow that great main following, you have to remember those ragtag groups of folks that stuck behind you in the beginning. If they were really truly the ones that help you get going, then that's great. They may not be the most prettiest fans you have, but they are the most loyal and will stick with you forever, and those people need to be recognized. If they were a group that misread your message and sort of took things down, then you need to distance yourself as quickly as possible and make sure that happens. And you always have to remember that somebody in that crowd on the low end is aspiring to be just like you on the high end one day as well. Show them some love, show them some hope, show them they can make a way so that they can do that when they're starting off with their crowd of misfits on their way to the top. Thank you for joining us for the podcast. The newer named, more or less same formatted podcast has a different mission, at least a slightly skewed mission from what I had before. So we're always leery on how things go when you try to relaunch something, and we're glad that you are enjoying what we've done. The 10-Minute Life Lesson Podcast lives under the moniker of Your Better You. So for more information on the podcast, visit the website yourbetteryou.info. Click on the tab for podcasts where you can find information on this podcast and the other podcasts under the brand name Steps to Your Better You. Stick around for great things at that website as you can find information on things about being your better you and coaching. That's where we're putting all the coaching stuff as well. We haven't killed the coaching. We just shifted it and put a little new coat of paint on it as well. You can find information on regular style coaching, group coaching, and the quick accountability coaching. That's all there at yourbetteryou.info. Click under coaching so you can find out all about that one as well. Anything else you need to find out about me, check out the website jclevelandpayne.net. That's my main website, or email me at jclevelandpayne@gmail.com, and I'll get back to you as quickly as possible. Not much to really report in the way of the selling of the business type stuff, except we're moving pretty strong. A lot of other things are going through, and a lot of changes that were made to accommodate this podcast reliving are working out for the better. Some of them are just sort of working out and scrounging through, just as all sort of change is. Change is never really easy, but it is always happening and definitely necessary. So we had to make a shift, and we're glad you're enjoying what's going on with this podcast here. Follow its feed in all the same places, or look for us on the same places: Spreaker, Stitcher, Google Play, also Google Podcasts as well, iTunes, Apple Podcasts, however it's called. Find us wherever you're looking for your podcast and subscribe to us as there. And let us know where you're finding us and where you're not finding us so we can remedy that situation. Had an issue with Spotify but we think we fixed. So hopefully you are hearing this on the Spotify version as well. Thank you very much for being with us for another week. We got plenty of material to work with, so we have a lot of time to do. Hopefully you'll want to stick with us for that. And next week we'll do that. Another great episode of the 10-Minute Life Lesson coming up in a week. Thank you so much, and enjoy yourself for the next 7 days.